Hey everyone, it's Amanda Radke back for another episode of the Heart of Rural America podcast, the show where we highlight great people doing inspiring things in their rural communities to make agriculture and this country stronger. I'm not on the ranch in South Dakota. Rather, I am in Washington, D.C. today with an incredible coalition of South Dakota legislators who are once again answering the call to defend and safeguard your private property rights. This matters not just in South Dakota, but across the nation. And South Dakota is leading the way in this effort and showing the pathway to getting real results. One of the big leaders in this movement is trusted, proven, and has a decade of success and a track record proving that he is in the fight with the landowners. Jon Hansen, Speaker of the House, the next governor of the state of South Dakota. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Amanda.
So we've had a busy couple days in Washington, D.C. We've been running hard in the midst of a busy campaign. You and Carla running for governor and lieutenant governor. You prioritize making this trip out to Washington, D.C. I guess briefly, just talk a little bit about what's going on and what called you to be here in this fight today.
Well, we've been fighting against this Green New Deal scam from the very beginning, and we're not going to quit fighting. And so really, we're out here in Washington, D.C. to continue to fight for landowner rights, for constitutional private property rights. You know, we had a huge win this last legislative session. The bill that was passed by Carla Lems and Mark Lopke to ban eminent domain for the carbon sequestration pipeline. Epic, big win for landowner rights in South Dakota. Well, as soon as we do that, we start hearing about a provision in the budget reconciliation bill out in Washington where they want to take all of the work that was done for the landowners in our state and just override it with one federal bill. And so when we found out about that, we said, there's no way we're going to let that happen. And so we started working hard to make sure that that provision was removed from the reconciliation bill in Washington. Fortunately, it was. We got it removed from the House version of the reconciliation bill. That reconciliation bill is now over in the Senate. And so one of the things we want to do is come out here and make sure, talk to our senators, talk to other people in Congress, make sure that that provision does not get put back in the reconciliation bill.
So we had a meeting with Majority Leader Thune and with Senator Mike Rounds today. We've been hustling into every office that will basically let us in their door to talk. I guess, what is your take home as this big, beautiful bill heads over to the Senate side? What's kind of the message you're hearing on the ground here in D.C.?
There is reason to be optimistic on that provision that was going to override our state's authority when it comes to the location of these pipelines. From what we're hearing from our conversations with Senator Thune and Senator Rounds, that provision is not going to find its way back in the Senate version of this bill. On the 45Q tax credit, however, I think there's still a lot of work to be done. The 45Q tax credit is the pot of gold at the end of all of this that's really at the root of all of the things that we've seen in South Dakota. The abuse of landowner rights, landowners getting sued, counties getting sued, PUC commissioners getting sued. All of the abuse that we've seen is all being funded by the 45Q tax credit at the end of the day, because that's the big taxpayer-funded pot of gold that they're chasing after. Unfortunately, it sounds like the 45Q tax credit has got some life. Boy, that's really disappointing to hear. So we're going to continue to work to completely end the Green New Deal scam. And the way we do that when it comes to this pipeline, this carbon sequestration Green New Deal pipeline, is to end the 45Q tax credit. That has to happen. And so we're going to continue to fight to do everything we can to make sure that 45Q tax credit is ended once and for all.
And, you know, I got to commend the landowners because you guys are engaged, you're paying attention. It is undoubtedly because you guys picked up the phone, you called, you emailed your representatives that language of giving eminent domain authority to the federal government on CO2 pipelines, that was removed. Today, we were out in the Capitol and we were hearing from these senators that the phones have been ringing. And so I want to encourage you guys, it does matter. They are hearing from you. I know even making this trip, Jon, I don't know about you, but I felt like, man, it's expensive. It's time consuming. We all have young families. It's hard to be out here. Yeah. Does it even make a difference? I guess, what would your message be to all the citizens back home? Does this actually matter, and can they impact change?
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen it throughout this whole fight. The difference that your voice makes by reaching out to your representative or senator or congressman or senator out in Washington, it makes a huge, huge difference because I can tell you the pressure from the other side is immense. So the one thing that we can do is let our voice be heard. We want to end the Green New Deal scam, and we want fiscal responsibility again in the United States of America. And by ending the 45Q tax credit, it does both those things. We end the Green New Deal for carbon sequestration, and we restore a measure of fiscal sanity. Once again, we can't afford to be spending billions in federal tax credits just to put carbon in the ground. It's plant food. It should just go out into the air. But instead, we're going to waste billions of federal tax dollars on that? No. And it's all part of the Green New Deal scam. So please do let your voice be heard. Tell anybody that has a decision to be made on this issue, Senator Thune, Senator Rounds, Dusty Johnson, all of Congress, all of Washington, end the Green New Deal and restore fiscal sanity. We can do that by eliminating 45Q tax credit.
And isn't it interesting then that there's Republicans, and we see it in South Dakota too, there's this dynamic, like as long as there's money to be made, this is something we're going to do. And they're bending to this agenda that carbon is an actual problem or that climate change is something we need to mitigate. I guess, what does being a conservative Republican mean to you? You talk a lot about ending the Green New Deal. You talk a lot about fiscal responsibility. I guess that was a big message we shared today, is that this is out of control spending. So I guess maybe talk a little bit about what you think the role of government is in situations, projects like this.
First and foremost, it's about protecting our people's constitutional rights and not selling them out to the highest corporate bidder. And this is a perfect example of what can happen when you do just the opposite of that. Because what we've seen in South Dakota over the last 3 years is landowner rights, constitutional private property rights under attack because a for-profit company is coming in with a bunch of lobbyists and saying, we want to take your land and use it whether you like it or not. That's not conservative. That's not American. And so what we can do first and foremost is to stand up for our people's constitutional private property rights, not sell them out to lobbyists and big corporations.
Well, I appreciate your time. I know you have a flight to catch, John. I guess any parting words before I let you go? You got to go get souvenirs for the kids on the way back into the airport.
We have our first souvenir, which is this wall drug.
Wall drug, absolutely classic.
So, well, just like you were saying, Amanda, I would just encourage everybody to reach out to members of Congress to say, end the Green New Deal scam and restore fiscal sanity. The way to do that is to end the 45Q tax credit. And also do make sure that when this reconciliation bill is worked its way through the Senate, that provision that's going to go and grab our authority as a state away from us, that doesn't make its way back in the Senate version of the reconciliation bill.
Well, thank you so much for your leadership on all of this, John. I know on behalf of the tens of thousands of landowners in South Dakota, as well as frankly, just people that are watching all across the nation that are seeing that South Dakota has actually gotten real tangible results in this issue to protect and safeguard private property rights. Just thank you so much for your selfless leadership, your commitment to the Constitution, and to doing what's right for the people of this great nation.
Same to you, Amanda. Thank you.